Hello and welcome to today's video. Today I'm still at G.U.R.U here in the Waikato district of New Zealand, and behind me is the cenotaph or war memorial for the township, and that ties in with today's story, of course. So just 40 metres away is still the Waikato River, which was my backdrop from yesterday's video. So just thinking again about the Waikato River, it's on that river there is many hydroelectric dams, so it provides the energy for us in terms of electricity. And this morning I sat by the river, just a perfect day here, the sun's shining, the river is hardly a ripple in it, and just absorbed just the energy from that. So I wasn't quite the hydroelectric dam or the turbines, but I was my own turbine, I guess, my own conduit for that energy. And so it's a great place to just be and bringing this video to you in terms of the energy flows. So I was coming up with a topic for today, and as always the universe basically gave me some signs. So parked about 30 metres to my right away from this war memorial, and today is April the 25th 2026, and April the 25th is a very large day in New Zealand. It's the day where we commemorate what's known as Anzac Day. So Anzac Day is in relation to the First World War. So the First World War in 1915, the combined Australian and New Zealand Army Corps troops were sent to Gallipoli in Turkey to basically land on the beaches and try and take the place. Unfortunately, that's didn't quite work out as planned. I'm not quite sure that the plans were great plans anyway. There's been a lot of conjecture since then as to how bad planning was for that, and there was massive loss of life, and they really didn't get anywhere because they were attempting to take the cliffs, so to speak, there, and the enemy really just had the prime position. So it's seen as a bit of a failure in terms of a war context. So this morning, being effectively a day which is ends up being a public holiday for New Zealand, and I attended the local memorial hall. It was the service for the community at 10 o'clock, and it was a beautiful service, and there was people doing some speeches, and there was singing as well, which was very uplifting. But the context of that and what people were talking about when they did stand up was that remembering that the First World War was the Great War, so the war to end all wars, that's how it was labelled, and unfortunately things didn't quite pan out that way, did they? So today is a day of remembrance, and remembrance, while I was in that service, that just came to my mind that will be today's topic. And my tie into the war, or my direct tie into the Second World War I should say, is that my father served in the Second World War. He went away as a very young man. I mean, he was only 17 when the war commenced. So remembering my dad, he served in the Air Force in the Pacific Islands during the Second World War. And subsequent to the war, when I basically was a younger man, I asked my dad, Dad, why did you go to war? And he said, well, there really wasn't many options, everyone did. And I don't think it was quite conscription, but I think it was one step away from it. So he was following the edict of the time: go to war to fight for peace, and you'll basically do what you're told. And but subsequent to the war, Dad returned from the war, and he had souvenirs, so to speak, and books and diaries and photographs, and he told me that not many years after that he took them out into the backyard and burnt them all, and that war, he realised, was pointless. So here's a young man, or many young men, who go away on the basis of what they are literally told to do, conditioned to do. And they were fighting for peace, apparently. And I was thinking about that just before I started this video, that conflict, war, aggression, I've described those in the past as darkness, really, and it was almost a case of darkness fighting darkness. But the darkness that was fighting the darkness was in the name of finding peace. And I do have some trouble sort of coming up with the concept how darkness could beat darkness, because it's certainly a long way away from the light, shall we say, or the light as I understand it to be. So remembrance and following orders or following edicts of the time, conditioning, it's all he knew, young guy. All his mates from the local area were joining up, so he followed along, and sort of governmental decisions to go to war. So again, it's a case of people, or at the time my dad was looking for guidance from outside. He was looking for guidance from the system, and I did that. I used to do that. You know, the system's going to do me right. They're going to never do me wrong. They're going to give me a good education. They're going to look after the economy, can look after me. But the reality of that situation, particularly when it comes to a war, is that a lot of young men never came back. They just didn't even start their lives. So for me, in agreement with my dad, just war is pointless. And of course, as time's gone on for me, particularly on my spiritual journey, I've been fortunate to come up with a different concept of everything. And people standing up and doing their speeches talking about we will remember the war and try and learn from our mistakes, and, you know, not to repeat our mistakes and not to go to pointless wars again. And the way that remembrance really is that they're remembering back to 111 years from now. So they're not remembering back that very far, to tell you the truth. And they're trying to learn from human decisions and general human decisions, I should say, and all of the stuff that I talk about in terms of perhaps not looking at it from a very deep level. So I'll tie that into the remembrance that they are talking about to the remembrance that I believe is the ultimate remembrance. So I've talked about this a number of times, and it's to do with remembering who the individual is and where we came from. I talk about the source a lot. I've seen the source, or as close to the source as I've seen to date, and it's very different source to what perhaps people may imagine at times, or just in their day-to-day lives imagine. So if people are looking back 111 years to the source of some learnings for how to avoid future wars, as I say, it's not working out very well, and they're still looking at perhaps trying to understand decisions made by the humans or by the human brain. So my remembrance was really to do with when I found myself and what is important. So I'm talking about where I've talked about ego death, getting rid of all that conditioning, getting rid of what I've been told is correct, and going back to a place where I could see where I came from. And that place that I came from is really nothing like the world today on the material physical plane. And it's nothing like the world would have been 111 years ago when those guys landed on the beach at Gallipoli. It's a different place. It's where I have seen the source. I have understood with clarity the oneness of mankind. And I've talked about this in previous videos and in my writings. It's to do with understanding that we have so much more in common with each other than we have differences. The differences have come in over time. We're talking a multitude of time. We're not talking hundreds of years or thousands of years. We're talking from the source, the light, where we all emanated from to get to where we are today. So the darkness has crept in along the way in various forms, and it's led to a lot of conflict. Now, my learnings, so again I want to really talk about this in terms of my learnings. I certainly had conflict in my life as a youngster. You know, just internal conflict and anger at times, which can, you know, as within, so without. So it can manifest outwardly. So thinking about my journey and what I've learned that we're all one. We're all connected. I learned that through some ceremonies, or shall I say, I had the vivid realization of that through the ceremonies that I undertook last year. But I also was getting an understanding of that through various other means. So it's not just one way that one can understand this oneness. Those ceremonies, though, were basically shortcuts to understanding the oneness or seeing it and feeling it. It's an emotion. And if everybody sees what I saw, and there is a lot of people in the world, I suggest, who have reached the source or the oneness of mankind, you wouldn't hurt anybody. You wouldn't be involved in any conflict. I talk a lot about my life as peace and freedom. I'm not here to harm anybody. So if there was an understanding from what I'm talking about outward to mankind, there would be no conflict. There just couldn't be. It would be impossible. Now I know that's a big ask, but I can't solve the world conflicts. I'm not going to solve the world wars, and I'm not going to solve the massive conditioning of mankind, but I can influence what's around me, and I can make this video, and I can hope that people can look at it and maybe take something from it in terms of light, in terms of, oh, okay, what he's talking about, he's very adamant that it's real, that it exists. And have we just forgotten that that's what exists? And my suggestion is, yes, we have. So again, to tie that back into remembrance, once we remember what I'm talking about, and I'm not here to preach this to anybody, I'm just here to say this is my 100% experience from my spiritual journey, then if people can sort of tie into what I'm saying and maybe get to a level where they have this really in-depth understanding of the oneness, peace can reign. I have no doubt about that. But it's probably not going to be here in my current physical incarnation, but that's okay, because I'm going to live many more incarnations somewhere out in the universe anyway, so it's not a problem if it doesn't turn up in a hurry. So I mentioned my dad early on in the video. I'm just going to sort of sum this all up and bring it right round to my dad. He's a wonderful man, and he passed away approximately 13 years ago. Not the most educated gentleman, but he had common sense, and he'd seen these things, and he'd kind of learnt some things along the way in terms of obviously war. And one thing that he used to do is he used to take us fishing at the local wharf, and I'm dating back a good 50 years here, and at the local wharf was a young lady by the name of Shona Lang, and Shona Lang was there basically guitar in hand and sort of composing songs, but we didn't really know that at the time. But she became quite well known in the 1970s in New Zealand for some songs that she released, and one of the songs she released was a song called Show Your Love. And I'll just read out the first few lines of that song. If you just bear with me, I'll just get that in front of me. The song says, "There's really no point in living a life unless you try to see past the hatred and war, bring a little feeling to the fore." So it's a song about showing your love, and I listened to that song this morning. So I took the energy from 50 years ago when she sang that to me. So she was offering energy to me, which I took on board. That energy has accumulated inside me as part of this overall energy that I talk about, overall energy flow. And I'm now projecting that energy in terms of my words, everything I've said, my physical being, and of course those words to you through this video. And so I hope, in summary, that people can take some light from it, maybe just a bit of an understanding of maybe what remembrance means to me, and I'm hoping for mankind that people can get back to that. So I'll leave the video at that for today. Thank you very much for listening. Enjoy the rest of your day. As always, enjoy the journey. We will meet when we should, and namaste.